Okay, I'm just gonna go straight into this. No intros, no background music. I'm just going to speak my mind on a couple of different but related topics here, namely the current situation with Pewdiepie, which I think everybody and their dog has spoken about now, and the Ben Affleck situation with him apparently wanting to drop out as Batman altogether. They are connected in a very strange way, and you'll see why in just a little while after I've finished my rambling, so to speak. Okay, so unless you have been living in a Swedish nuclear bunker for the last week or so, no pun intended, then you probably couldn't have possibly failed to have noticed all the hubbub about Pewdiepie. I don't really need to go into much detail about it. I mean, if you're watching this video, chances are you've seen everything else about this particular subject. He made a whole load of videos relating to Hitler, relating to the Fiverr service, and of course he got two Indian guys, or possibly Pakistani guys. I don't actually know their ethnicity. I'd have to go back and see if anybody's clarified that. But he got them to do a little bit of a dance and hold up a sign saying "Death to all Jews." And this was just as a joke because they were members of the Fiverr website, which I'd never heard of until I saw the Pewdiepie video. And, you know, they were just doing something for $5. That's literally the whole point of that website, is to do something for $5, whatever that might be. And Pewdiepie was actually very clear at the start of the video that it was to see just how ridiculous it was, how the system was, how you could get pretty much anyone to do anything for just $5. And some of the people declined, and some of the people actually did it, you know, and I think the video is still up. You can probably go back and judge for yourself. And his reaction to it is one of utter disbelief as they unveil the sign. He couldn't believe that they actually did it. Okay, he genuinely reacted in such a way that pretty much proves he was not expecting anyone to actually do it. And that did prove his point. Some people will do anything for a little bit of money. Now, of course, this has created a little bit of a media backlash and quite a bit of lazy journalism on the part of, you know, what is generally considered to be some fairly legitimate news sources, some legitimate members of the press, who just seem to be wanting to go for something. Well, to say it was blown out of proportions wouldn't be quite true, but they have certainly withheld certain things, and as you watch other videos, you find out that there's some questionable methodology that they're using here, such as when they went live with their original stories, they didn't actually approach Pewdiepie for any kind of comment at that point. They waited until they published their stories and then went to him for a response after that, and he declined, quite understandably in my mind. But this is kind of the point. On the one hand, we live in an age where people seem to take offence at anything without having actually looked into it in any regard. Or they take offence at something without actually thinking that the person might be talking about something else. I'll give you an example. If you and I decide to have a conversation on a particular topic and a third party wanders by and they only hear some of it, okay, they might think that we are actually in favour of that topic. If the topic is, say, something like racism or sexism, okay, they might think, without having joined the conversation, without having any real knowledge of what we were talking about, how the conversation came about, they might assume that we are both racists if we are talking about the subject of racism. Likewise, if we are talking about the subject of sexism, they might assume that we are talking in favour of it. Okay, as ridiculous as that might sound. On the other hand, to use something a little less potentially vindictive, let's say that we're having a conversation about our favourite artists. Okay, that person wandering by might get the idea that we are either experts in the field of art, or might actually get the idea that we are up ourselves thinking that we are experts in the field of art, without, again, having any real idea of what we're actually doing. And in those cases, they just go on the attack, on the offensive in some regard, accusing us of being pro-racism or pro-sexism or up our own backsides with our views on art, without having actually taken any time to figure out what we were actually trying to do, which kind of goes to show how ridiculous some of these things are. Likewise, a lot of people who look at these kind of news articles on, you know, in the traditional press, whether it's on their websites or in their newspapers, they're not actually going to go and watch the PewDiePie video. They're just going to assume that what's in the newspaper, what's in the legitimate press's website is the truth, even though there have been plenty of times over the last few decades, over the last century or so, where newspapers, legitimate media, have lied to the public, either because they've been instructed to by the government for propaganda reasons in time of war, and we've seen plenty of that in the last 10 years or so, or because they're just wanting to sell papers, or they're wanting the clicks to get the ad revenue on their website. And that's basically what's happening with PewDiePie here. Yes, he did something inherently, unquestionably stupid, and he himself has apologised for that, but that's the nature of his sense of humour. Not everybody's going to appreciate it. And like I said before, he was genuinely surprised at what happened, at the fact that those two men did actually unveil that sign. Okay, they were doing all the rest of the dancing. Why didn't they just unveil the sign with a different message? But c'est la vie. What's done is done. It's water under the bridge, but in this case it's water under the bridge that's part of a tidal wave. Yeah, how does this actually relate to the Ben Affleck situation, I hear you ask? Well, as you may also know, within the same week, by complete coincidence, over on Collider News, John Campion revealed that he had been speaking to at least, I think it was 3 different sources that he has within Warner Brothers, who declared to him that basically Ben Affleck wants completely out of the Batman project. And something John's revealed just yesterday was that apparently the feelings are mutual. Now, nobody's caught onto that just yet, because with it being the weekend, you know, a lot of people are probably off at this point, you know, taking a break from various different things that they do online. But he also made it very clear in his video that it was not a scoop, it was not officially confirmed, it was just information that he'd had from insiders that he knows, people he has contacts with within Warner Brothers. And it's not confirmed in any way, and he said it wasn't something that they were running with as an official story. So he did actually ask people not to treat it as an official story, because it wasn't. And yes, I realise I'm doing exactly the same thing as everybody else, but at the same time it does go back onto the point I'm trying to make earlier. A lot of people will just run with whatever they have without having done any actual checking of their own. The number of websites and YouTube channels I've seen over the last week or so referencing John Campion's story, which it wasn't actually a story, it was just his statement on one of the live shows that Collider do. And these other websites, these other YouTube channels have basically referenced that other people are running with the story as well. But, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, none of them seem to really quote John directly. They don't mention his disclaimer that he gave, which I have, kind of, sort of, maybe. But at the same time, it's sort of misrepresenting what John Campion was actually saying. Now, I've been subscribed both to Collider in its current format and as it was in the days of it being AMC Movie News, so I've been quite a long-term fan of that particular show. I consider myself a fan of John Campion. I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel as well. I follow him on Twitter and whatnot, and I do find the guy to be quite likeable. A few places I've seen have criticised his methodology as being typically American, but he's actually Canadian. Okay, so, you know, please try to do a little bit of research, people. But he is essentially one of the people who has sort of popularised movie vlogging, movie blogging and so on. In fact, as he himself points out, he was one of the first movie bloggers out there and did see the need to change over to movie vlogging. The sort of thing that we all use YouTube for nowadays. So in that regard, he's something of a pioneer. PewDiePie, of course, is the most popular person. I mean, at the last check when I looked over his channel this morning, he's got 53 million subscribers, and I'm one of them. Okay, I don't watch every video he does. I don't watch every video that every person that I'm subscribed to produces either. I look at the thumbnail, I look at the title, just to get an idea as to whether or not it's something I'm actually going to actually be interested in. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Just depends. Typically, because he is the most popular YouTuber, he is literally the top dog, so to speak, in this regard. He is more in the public eye, and I think the old media, the legitimate media, Yeah, I do agree with the statement. A lot of people are pointing out that they're afraid of the new media, of YouTube, and people being able to stand on their own soapboxes, such as I am now, even though I'm just standing in my socks on a carpeted surface. I think they're afraid of that. I think they're afraid of people getting to speak their own mind, of potentially investigating things for themselves and, you know, speaking the truth as they see it. I think they're afraid of it. They'll embrace it in any way they can, because let's face it, traditional newspaper sales are going down, whereas they're having to rely more on their websites, with clickbaity titles and misleading photos and whatnot. I mean, if you go on any number of websites, whether they're the legitimate old school press or the modern day internet warrior type thing, they're all using clickbait to a certain degree. Even the title I'm going to be using is probably going to be considered a bit clickbaity anyhow, so take that as you will. At the end of the day, the main point I want to make is that we are a very reactionary society at the moment. We don't pay enough attention to anything beyond what we're first told. If we hear, oh, Pewdiepie is a Nazi because he's posted a video of himself watching Hitler videos. Yes, but he was also taking the piss out of Hitler. That's not something someone in favour of somebody like Hitler does. It's something you do to help ridicule that person. But at the same time, we need to take into context what that person is actually doing. The death to all Jews message was a joke, a bad one. I know what he was thinking, it's just, it wasn't the kind of subject he should have used to help get that point across. You know, there's probably any number of different things he could have asked them to do on balance, but you know, you can probably think of a few yourself, so put them down in the comments, but please just don't take everything at face value. You know, if you see any kind of negative press about somebody, especially if it's somebody like a YouTuber whose work is actually available for you to look at straight off, go and look at the alleged video that person has made to see what they were actually talking about, because the chances are you're only going to be told half the truth. There's going to be a whole load of things that's going to have been missed out, if not more than half it's going to have been missed out. Look it up, check the videos out if you haven't already, and decide for yourself. I'll give you another great example. Russell Brand, he has his own YouTube channel, which I'm also subscribed to, and he's not the most regular poster at the moment. He doesn't produce that much content himself, but then he's also a busy man in many other regards. And while, again, I don't agree with a lot of what he says, I do agree with some of what he says. And the things he talks about in general, he actually talks about in a very informed way for the most part. In some cases it's his own opinion, and he does sometimes, you know, just uses that platform to spread his opinion, which is his right. But what the newspapers don't have the right to do is to completely misrepresent what he has said. Now, in that regard, there's been certain times, and it's mainly the Daily Mail, since they are direct polar opposites of him in terms of political beliefs, and to a certain degree maybe religious beliefs as well. But there have been certain times I've seen people posting on Facebook links to articles that the Daily Mail have made about Russell Brand, and I end up wondering, did the person writing that article actually watch the video they're talking about? And it's quite clear that the people commenting on the link haven't watched the video either, because they're just responding to whatever the headline is, whatever text in the message says, which is usually just quite typical of the Daily Mail, a load of rubbish. Anyhow, that's enough of my rambling for today. Like I said before, look into things yourself, make your own mind up, don't let anybody tell you what you should be thinking.